Chairman, I'll begin by pointing out that हिंदी में सारा देश इस टेलीविजन से सुन रही है, तो तमिलनाडु के लोग मुझ पर गुस्सा हो जाएंगे। ठीक है, वो धीरे धीरे आएगा, बट अभी मैं अंग्रेजी में बोलूँगा। और भूपेंद्र यादव ने हिंदी में बोल लिया, अब मेरी बारी है इसको बैलेंस करने के लिए अंग्रेजी में बोलने के लिए। I will begin, Deputy Chairman, by pointing out that on one occasion earlier last week, you had expunged my statement in which I tried to quote the letter of Christian Michel. Today I found to my surprise that the honourable member from the Trinamool Congress quoted that letter. It's on record now. And my good friend Abhishek Singhvi, he also quoted from another letter written by Mr. Hashke. So those letters, please, if I mention it, don't treat me separately and expunge it, because now it is part of the record. Having said that,
we want a smooth debate.
Yes, you mean that if I quote that letter, it will be unsmooth. Yeah, the rule has to be the same for everybody.
You know.
Yeah, I know it.
See, what is important is that the discussion should take place.
I know that, but there is no law that I can't quote a letter, but other members can quote the same letter. Yeah. Now, I had the benefit of listening to other members, and I have noted some of the points, but I will begin by saying that Mr. Singhvi's reply was the usual one that I hear in courts from him. And recently, after arguing against me, he lost in the High Court and then against in the Supreme Court, and I hope to defeat him again in the Patiala Court very soon. But I'm saying that this has got nothing to do with vendetta. This has got nothing to do with the imagination on which we make these allegations. We are at an early stage of prosecution, that is, it's in fact in the investigative stage, and therefore I would like to make three things very clear. First is, what are the admitted facts which they cannot deny also? And then out of that, those admitted facts, what is the criminality? And finally, the third part would be, how do we proceed now on the basis of what we know? Where I'll make some suggestions to the government. So first of all, I would like to say that the facts, admitted facts, are in Parliament questions, answers to Parliament questions. The CAG report laid on the table of the House in 2013, August 13, 2013. The Italian High Court, equivalent of Italian High Court judgment. These are admitted facts. And I'll begin first by saying that yes, it is true that the NDA had initiated the process for buying 8 new helicopters to replace 6 old helicopters which were purchased in 1988. But the objective was that VVIPs should be able to fly to those remote areas such as Siachen or Northeast, and therefore ought to fly at heights above 6,000 meters and should be out of the range of shoulder rockets. So then in Siachen, there are shoulder rocket people in the other side of the border, or whatever it's called, the line of control, and therefore the helicopter should not be shot down by a shoulder rocket. So it had to be sufficient height, and therefore the Air Force was of the view that it should be at least 6,000 meters. Now that was lowered because it was found that this present choice that we have made of Augusta Westland it cannot fly beyond 4,500 meters. The question was raised, who lowered it? And they quoted Brijesh Mishra, who was a civil servant in the NDA government. And of course he was decorated by them. They gave him Padma Vibhushan, one less than Bharat Ratna. I was just wondering what is the service that required him to be given such a high honor. One day I will discover it. But he had nothing to do with it, because I am quoting admitted fact of a question in Parliament which was filed by Srimati Kusum Rai. I don't know whether she's still a member.
No.
And Mr. Prabhat Jha, is he here? Yeah. So they filed the question as unstarred question number 654, answered on 11/12/2013 by the honorable member here, a former defense minister. The question asked was whether Indian Air Force in January 2004 had emphasized that the altitude requirement of VVIP helicopters be kept at 6,000 meters as an inescapable necessity, and if so, the details thereof. And Mr. Anthony replies, yes sir. However, in the contract signed with Augusta Westland on February 8, 2010 for procurement of 12 VVIP helicopters, the technical requirements specified in the request for proposal that was issued on 27th September 2006 were formulated after detailed discussion amongst all stakeholders and per stipulated guidelines. So now an admitted fact that the people who lowered the height was not the NDA as they made the allegation. It's a question, answer to a question. What is it that you want to know? 2004, the Air Force has taken a stand. It is an inescapable necessity. 6,000 meters. And he had, Mr. Anthony says, yes, that is what the Air Force had said. But because of 2006, September 27th RFP, we changed it after due consultation. Whether they did it for meritorious reason or another matter. But the fact is that it is a lie to say that the NDA government was the one that changed the specification of the height. Yes. Now we come to the what? A lie, yes, sir. Terminological inexactitude. That's the correct parliament word. Now it comes to the second question. Here and there they have said, but they didn't say it here, but I think I should reply, that many state governments of the NDA purchased this aircraft, that is a helicopter. Well, when you fly helicopters in Chhattisgarh or you fly it in Maharashtra, there is no problem of shoulder rockets and an enemy across the border. And therefore, it is its ability not to be able to fly above 4,500 is not a constraint. So there was no blacklisting. The blacklisting is now being initiated, and you have a motion for breach of privilege of the leader of the opposition, who claimed that his government had blacklisted and we had withdrawn it. Is absolutely untrue. I've given you documentation. You will, I'm sure, very expeditiously decide on this issue. But the fact of the matter is that state governments purchasing, there was no blacklisting. There was no ban in purchasing it. As far as the questions come, the issue will arise that some bribe was given. Those people who gave the bribes are now in jail, and therefore whether we should give up our right to receive the spares and other things that we bought. And therefore the process has to go now after the High Court judgment. The process of banning the company is being worked out. I'm sure the defense minister, if he had been given the chance to say everything in the very beginning, much of the debate would have been much more enlightened. Now, what had happened was, at the NDA period, that after these strict restrictions, Only one helicopter survived, that was the Euro helicopter number 225 became eligible. The NDA took the point that if it is a single vendor, then there will be questions raised. So let's see whether within the framework we can work out in such a way that more vendors can be brought in. They also, the India government noted that the SPG had not been consulted. After all, this helicopter was for the VVIPs, so SPG should be consulted. And so therefore, with these two additional points, let's see if you can have more than one vendor and have the SPG consulted with all that the NDA had said. And nothing else was there. There were no directions on changing any other restrictions. Now what happened? Once the questions, once the UPA came to power, there were a lot of changes that were brought in. UPA took office in 2004, and the Ministry of Defence went beyond these two aims, that is, try and get more than one vendor, and two, see that the SPG is consulted. Well, certainly the SPG was consulted, but now they added additional parameters, which ultimately made it clear that only one aircraft, one helicopter would qualify, and that is the Augusta Westland. This is described in great detail, which I'm not going to read, in the CAG report laid in the House, on the table of this House. All these are there. But some of them I will bring out because they are stark. And it shows that there is a mens rea, so to speak, an intention to create a situation where you only buy Augusta Westland. One change of parameter was clearly malified. Every helicopter except one helicopter has this, what is called as the cabin height of 1.45 meters or less. क्यों? तुम्हें पानी पिलाया नहीं अभी तक? नहीं, पानी पिलाओ इनको. So, पिला लूंगा आपको पानी. अब तो नए मेंबर को थोड़ा रोकिए. पानी में डूब मरो. हाँ, नहीं तो पानी में डूब मर जाएंगे. इसी प्रकार से बात चलेगी तो. अब the question therefore. Get distracted. Let him speak. The international norm for cabin height is 1.45 meters. So you have to bend a little. Most Indians are not above 1.7. So therefore, most countries also, the average height is less than 1.7 meters. So therefore 1.45 was widely used because it has a great structural effect on the helicopter if you have a large size cabin height. But the parameter of 1.45 meters was changed by the new UPA government to 1.80 meters. And in the whole, yeah, for there must be very tall, yeah, maybe Ghulam Nabi Azad must have been thought of as the VIP, will use it most often. I don't know. The issue is that there is no other helicopter produced in the world which has 1.80 meters or above. That means you had already started the process to see everybody else is eliminated and only one particular helicopter is purchased. This my opinion is in fact a clear case of mens rea and something on which they can be prosecuted. Of course, under section 13 bracket 1 bracket D part 3, the ministers and the civil servants who agreed to this can be prosecuted of the Prevention of Corruption Act. And so I would advise the government that those who are responsible, don't worry, I'll come to you also.
Now please allow him to speak. Please listen to him and then you can respond after listening to him.
Finding their facts are undigestible, that's the problem. Now, other changes also. One is that the field trials should be on the aircraft you are using. They say, no, in many aircrafts we have done field trials abroad. I'm not on that. But the aircraft that you are buying, that same aircraft has to be subject to field trials. They did not use the AW101 aircraft which they bought for field trials. They used another helicopter, which is another fraud committed on the people of India.
Shame.
Of course, they chose to have the field trials in Italy, and Italy is a nice place, of course, and therefore I have no objection to their doing the field trials in Italy. But why did you have the testing done by another helicopter and say that the AW101 has now passed the field trials? That is a fraud, and they are prosecutable under Section 420 of the IPC.
Shame.